I guess it's working now. Well, thanks for everybody for coming so much. We're really excited to be here. So a little bit how I got started with this. After graduating from college, I was living in New York City and working as a professional performer. And I was looking for an alternative to waiting tables and decided that a startup would be a good option. Little less tedious, even though that's certainly not the easiest way to go, but I'm certainly glad that I went in that direction. So I was originally drawn to cannabis, and I started going to industry events in like early 2016. These would usually be 10 to 15 people in a conference room. By the end of 2017, these events were basically selling out convention centers. It was at this time that I realized that cannabis is basically just the primer, that the real big game changer on the horizon is industrial hemp, and it has the potential to be disruptive on a global scale. There's Mr. Jefferson. All right, there we are. So, what is hemp? I know everybody here is a hemp expert by this point, but I think it's a good idea to remember why all of us are here. So hemp is a bast fiber crop that has been grown by humans for thousands of years. It has appeared in a variety of different regions, ranging from Eastern Europe to Southeast Asia. In fact, I actually found remnants of hemp fiber from Mesopotamia that was dated to the year 8000 BCE. So as you can tell, this plant is very old and has had a symbiotic relationship with the development of human civilization, which I think is really exciting. So why is hemp special? I think that's always really a good thing to remind ourselves of. I mean, you go to the supermarket and you see, dozens of other crops that each have their own, special story and amazing properties. But, what is it about hemp that makes it so unique? Well, hemp has a number of really remarkable properties that make it one of a kind. One of which is that a single crop is basically 4 raw materials packaged into one plant. It is naturally resistant to both insects and diseases, and the growing of the crop basically requires very little, if not any, pesticides and herbicides. I know the farmers in here will probably really appreciate that point more than I do. According to the Vote Hemp, the number of acres grown across 19 states totaled 23,343 acres in 2017. That is more than double the number of acres from the previous year. This growth is, what's really interesting about this is this growth is across the board too, so it's not really isolated to any particular region. And the font's a little small, but you can see kind of Vermont nestled in there pretty good. They went from 180 acres to 575 acres during this period. That is, they actually beat the spread a little bit, so that they're right on track to be in the double their production between this period. I don't have the 2018 numbers yet, but they seem to look promising as well. So this is really interesting too. Hemp sucks massive amounts of CO2 from the atmosphere, disproportionate to its relatively small size. In fact, it's actually got one of the highest CO2 to biomass conversion ratios found in nature, even more than agroforestry. Phytoremediation. This is another really interesting point that drew me to this. Hemp can be used as a phytoremediating crop. That means that it can be grown for a number of different ways of mopping up contaminated sites. Examples of this being used are crude oil, heavy metals, pesticides, and even radioactive material. There are some pilot programs in Australia being looked at to give tax breaks to farmers that are doing this to make this actually economically viable. So if this is taken off the ground, you may actually have a business model for cleaning up contaminated sites, which could be really, really exciting. They're growing the plant for it. It's stored in the shiv, and they're actually looking at ways that it can be incorporated into industrial products even after that. There's still research to be done, but that would give it basically a permanent storage. So processing, like with farmers, facilities have multiple streams of revenue that can come from the hemp plant. A full plant can be used and basically generates no waste if done to scale and with, a proper facility. In fact, a single facility can actually process the bast fibers for textiles, the hurd for animal bedding, CBD for flowers, and seeds for edibles. They actually are, there is a company in Germany right now called Henry's Hemp Harvester, which is actually taking this a step further. They're looking at basically taking the entire process for all parts of the plant and turning it into one production line. So not only would you have it be done in one facility, they're even looking at ways to do this with only one or two pieces of machinery. And they're also taking this machinery from existing agricultural heavy machinery. So this is actually something that they could augment. So they don't necessarily need to start from scratch. So why is hemp such an interesting crop for construction? Well, hemp as a raw material has a number of really, really remarkable applications that are useful to construction. One of them is that the bast and the shiv and the fiber actually make up 75% of the total hemp plant. While the fiber has a number of applications outside of construction, the shiv is generally a waste product for both the farmers and the production facilities. So this would be a major value added to the entire supply chain to get the construction industry up and running. Also, it's high in strength, low in density, and very porous. Hemp can be used as a base material for a number of existing products, which are demonstrated here. Some examples include fibers for mats, bat insulation, plasters, and shiv for hemp concretes, also known as HempCrete. So what is HempCrete? HempCrete is a biocomposite made from mixing hemp with a binding material. The end result is lightweight, durable, and easy to work with. If mixed properly, the material utilizes all of the positive properties of the hemp plant. The primary ingredients in HempCrete are hemp, which is the aggregate, a binding material, which is most commonly hydrated lime and water. The ratio of the hemp to lime determines the mechanical properties and the thermal properties of the material. This is pretty similar to concrete, if any of you guys are privy to mixing concrete. Even though the production has a lot of similarities, one of the big differences is that hemp is not recommended as a load-bearing material. The compression strength is substantially less than concrete. And this may change at some point, but we're not quite there yet. But that being said, it does have a number of remarkable attributes that make it really, really valuable for homeowners. So, hemp is a fireproof, fire-resistant, water, pest, and mold-resistant, but it's also hydroscopic. That means that it breathes very well. In fact, hemp walls actually passively regulate the temperature of the room, which is really, really good if you're looking at heating and cooling costs and reducing that. So one of the big things that I think is overlooked because it's really, really hard to put a monetary value of this is the livability factor. As I'm sure a lot of you guys know, poor air circulation is responsible for a variety of illnesses. Common symptoms include nausea, headaches, and fatigue being the most common. Organic construction materials that are porous, such as hemp, are really good solutions to this because they act basically like giant air filters. So this makes them very nice spaces to work in, and the base material basically contains none of the toxins that are associated with conventional construction material. So for folks with allergies and really sensitive immune systems, this type of thing is really, really valuable. We are looking forward to continue testing in the field in order to gather data and optimize performance. this and really get this stuff ready for mass market, because that's where it's heading, and I think this is going to be really, really exciting to watch and to be a part of. So part 2 is basically showing some examples of HempCrete and being used in real world examples.
Thanks, Alex. After that introduction and an understanding of what hemp is to HempCrete, Alex brought me into this after being an architect for 30 years, doing second homes, country clubs, all these other things, totally a different world. And it's been great, and it's so new, and it's so much potential for the future here. But it's not quite ready. And what I want to explain to you guys today, in fact, how many people here are in construction? Okay. My goal is to, within 5 years, to have every contractor, sheetrocker, tile guy, roof guy, concrete guy, painters, masons, the whole world of construction, to have an idea of what hemp is, okay, and how to use it. And best of all, how to use it when it's Vermont hemp, okay? I won't go into the benefits of the Vermont logo and the Vermont brand, but we got some good hemp grown here, and it's even going to get better. It's kind of hard for me to see the screen, so bear with me. All day, you've been seeing about CBDs, about fabrics, about processing, and that's all great. But construction is industrial hemp. And we in the construction industry have to create the demand, okay? The CBD market is great and it's going to continue, but the industrial hemp side is what we need. We need the shiv, we need the herd, we need the stalks, okay? And the only way that we can do that is to build, period. We have to create demand from the backside forward. We need to create the demand for the farmers to grow, knowing that guys like me and you guys and the rest of the construction industry are out there. We need to create the demand so the processors come, so that the farmers know when harvest time comes, they can sell it. And most of all, we need professional contractors who know how to build and know how to organize a construction site, okay? As an architect, I think life safety, period, okay? Design, you know, all the scarf and beret stuff, that's all great, but in the end, I've got to sign and seal something that says this is a safe house for you. And I'm not ready for that, I'll be honest with you, because the way we built our building out in Denver, which you'll see pictures of in a few minutes, it was the first permitted HempCrete structure in Denver, okay? But it wasn't a house, it was an outbuilding. It was a 16 by 20 workshop, okay? And I'll show you the pictures in a minute. But outbuildings are good, okay? And you can experiment with it, you can work with it, and they're small scale, but it's also, and this, I gotta stress this, it's where we are right now, okay? I need to know that I am building a house for you that is a fireproof house that's going to stand up. The insulation values are all going to be R40, R50, R20, whatever. And I can't do that right now because the United States, because of the laws that are hopefully changing in the next month, we're so far behind the rest of the world that we don't have the final UL listing for fire rating. We don't have, you know, the R ratings and the certifications. There's a lot going on, and it's going to burst. And that's why I'm saying 5 years for all the people here in the construction industry. We have 5 years to learn that, okay? But in the meantime, we have to continue to build and build small, okay? Get out there. Our motto for Alex and I has always been about education and infrastructure. The farmers have to grow, but they have to have the infrastructure to sell it to a processing plant. If there's no processing plants, it's going to rot in their barns. The processing plants are happening, okay? The farmers are converting, and our job right now today is to excite people about the construction industry and to take it forward from there, okay? So what is HempCrete? Okay, whoop, backwards, sorry. Okay. The way we built our shed, it's a workshop out in Denver, is the standard way it's being done right now in America. Basically, it's formed, the hemp is mixed with lime and water in a mixer, concrete mixer, and then taken by bucket to the site. And the stud walls, which are the structure, as Alex said, there's no compressive strength right now with HempCrete as it's being built. But the studs inside, or the posts and beams inside, is the structure. But you tamp the hemp in between the plywood, and within 4 hours you can take those panels off and get to the next level. It's not like concrete that will slump, okay? You start at the bottom and go up. You can do the roof, same thing. You put a form up on the rafters, tamp it in. You can take the forms down in a couple of days because of gravity, okay? And then after that comes the plastering, which gives it the waterproof. It's a lime-based plaster, and it will give it the bug-proof, the flame-proof, all the qualities that we're talking about. And you know what? It's been done all over the world except here, except in a handful of places. And what you see here, that's Israel, a wicked cool building made of HempCrete. The interior, you can see the exposed hemp with a plaster finish. Excellent design. Kitchen layout. You could put stuff on the wall. In straw bale construction, that's very difficult. With HempCrete construction, you have to put nailers in order to hang things on it. But it can work as long as it's planned. And so Alex and I said, well, why can't we do that? But we got to learn. So we went out to Colorado, and that's where we learned. It wasn't going on here, okay? We met with a guy named Eric McKee over there who wanted to build a workshop because his entrepreneurship in hemp construction, as well as hemp biofiber, as well as for snowboards, skateboards, he wanted a place to do it. We teamed up with a hemp construction class, Kelly Thornton and Allie, left-hand hemp. And then we had a post and beam builder, friend of Eric's, who built our structure. And then we had a class. And what we ended up having is 12 people come. We figured it would be for about a week, 5 days. We ended up having over 200 people show up, including Snoop Dogg's uncle, which was too cool, way cool. But the press, the newspapers, TV, it was like all of a sudden people were coming up to me and saying, you realize what you did? And I said, kinda, but what do you think? And we created a new genre. We created a new building type that's always been associated out in the northwest, southwest, and just like Israel in these arid climates. And so what we built, that's it there. It's a little post and beam barn, recycled windows, asphalt roof, concrete slab, and all the panels are made of HempCrete. This was day 8, and you can see the HempCrete panels there with the glass. The door hasn't been put in, but the big key here, this does not look like an igloo. This is not adobe. It's not stucco. It has a plaster finish on it. But our goal here was to learn about it and bring it back to the Northeast, okay? Where we could take a design that's going to be more traditional to the Northeast colonial look, the Vermont vernacular, if you will. Speaking of Oregon, with Seth, who was here before, that little building opened up a lot of doors for us, and I got a call from the Apricity Vineyard out in Oregon. And they had an old building that they wanted to create into a tasting room, and they were dedicated toward hemp. And so what we did, you can see the building sort of in the far right at the end of the aisle there. But what we did, we didn't, because this is commercial. A tasting room is a commercial building. You cannot use HempCrete right now in a commercial building, okay? Because of fire rating, life safety, R ratings, all those good reasons. You will in the future, but right now, stay away from commercial. So what we did is we teamed up with a landscape architect who did this great courtyard outside the building, and we added hemp features as far as sitting walls, as far as panels in the walls that you can see that in the lower elevations, as well as columns, and just really promoted hemp. Get it out there, educate. This is a house in Denver, other side of town, Art Deco. It's on a boulevard, really nice boulevard, of some really nice houses. Not McMansions or anything like that, just older houses from the 40s, 50s, 30s. And the owner came up to me when we met and said, I'd like to do this. And so what we decided, and what could be better? I mean, it's already stucco, it's Art Deco, it's got the edges and lines and everything. And on the right-hand slide, an aerial view, there's a breezeway that goes between the house and the garage. And so we designed a small addition that is going to fit where the breezeway is, and then a future addition on top of the garage. This is a rendering of that design, mainly a massing and blocking diagram, but it blended in perfectly. But then, you know what? We stopped. We said, wait a minute, let's test the HempCrete. Let's see where it will go, because of exactly what I was saying before, residential work. I don't want a phone call saying, the roof's leaking or the wall's leaking or there's, problems with flashing around windows. So we decided to use this as not only an example of residential, but more importantly, we're going to be building some walls around, some privacy and landscape walls around it. But that backed me off, okay? I said, let's slow down here. We're still a couple of years away. This was, last year as far as the Farm Bill. We're still a couple of years away as far as certifications. Let's stay small. So it developed a library of small outbuildings. And the goal here is 100% just go out and build, okay? These little buildings can be used from everything from like it's a little sugar house or a little stable, but it also, why couldn't it be a little pond house or a meditation room or a yoga studio or an office? But what it does is it gets people building, and that's, again, the most important thing, is to build the system so that people can come out, not only guys like you, and not only educating builders and painters and the contractors, but also state officials. We need fire and safety and the Department of Safety to see these buildings, because it's going to come up and it's going to become a building type. And that's my emphasis on why we have 5 years to do that. And then maybe we can build a residential house, a guest house, okay? And again, build again, keep building. And if you're willing to build, if you want to do your house now, go for it, okay? It's all right. But just be aware that you want to be very public, you want to expand the industry, but you have to be aware that there are going to be issues that are going to come up. Nothing insurmountable, okay? But as long as we don't have a product like a panel or a block like they have in Europe, there's some incredible places out in Australia, New Zealand. That's going to be the key, is that you can go down and to your lumber store and buy HempCrete panels or blocks that you know are certified to be good products, a certain insulation, a certain thickness, and a quality. And they'll be structural too. The one link right now that we are working with other material scientists as well as other developer types is to create the formula, the mixture, the magic sauce on what you can put into the hemp mix that'll give it the structural strength. You can't use it for concrete, and foundations yet. It can't touch the ground, but that will come too at some point. So in conclusion, there's really some really good opportunities for contractors and builders, architects, tile guys, roofers, everybody. And we have to create the demand, okay? And it's happening. I can tell you firsthand. There's demand out there, and people are hearing about it. They're learning about it. There's hemp fests in every state practically now, okay? And we can be part of this industry that is going to be really, really big. But it's just that far away. We're this far away from hopefully within a month of getting that Farm Act done, and then the floodgates are going to open. It's going to be a lot of people being involved, and at the same time be very careful, because that attracts a lot of strange people too. So I really thank you guys for coming to be here and learning about this. Get as much as you can, and if you can, build something. Talk it up, okay? Go on the internet. You can't believe the stuff that's out there, okay, that's already been built. Small and some big stuff. England's done a lot of big industrial buildings, but they have the laws there. We don't. 5 years, I bet you we do. Okay, thank you.
If anyone had any questions? Okay, let me start here, and then we'll work back.
In mixing the hemp herd shiv bast with the lime, what's the difference in drying between using hydrolyzed lime versus lime, like agricultural dirt lime, that you put in the soil?
The hydrated lime is much more porous than the other type of than the first type of lime. So what that does is that one of the big selling points here is that this is a really great insulation material. So although both of them could be used, that's probably the one you'd want to go with, and what most go with, just because it synergizes really well with the hemp herd.
Hydrolyzed.
Hydrated lime, yes.
Hydrated lime. Okay.
And if I could add, building it the way we built our building and the way it's being built now in and around the country, it's wonderful. But when we did ours, we were amateurs, okay? And we learned as a class on the right mixture of the water, the lime, and the hemp. Since we built ours, and I've been getting calls from people around the country, 3 of them are repair jobs, okay? And that's because no matter how hard we work or you work on putting that mixture together, it's always a little different, okay? It's not controlled. And then there's the humidity or the dryness or the exposure to the sun, okay? It'll dry it in different patterns. It will dry at different times. And also, if there's too much moisture, like Oregon, it can dry very slowly, okay? And if it goes too long, too wet, mold will come, okay? So what solidified my direction as an architect on slowing down and staying small is let's get this certified and let's get this as a product that we know will be perfect and certified and warranted, okay? And when I say slow down, I'm talking 5 years. It's going to go fast, okay? But the mixture is key. But there's no book right now that's going to say 2 parts water, 2 parts hemp, 3 parts lime. They'll tell you, but then you have to key into where you are. In Florida, you're in Arizona, you're in Kentucky. The humidity levels are big and changing, okay? You can do that for sure. Sort of is not an option. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you could, yes. But again, it's humans mixing it. Okay? And if I'm mixing this one batch with the sand that you're adding, and then the next guy does, a little less, you're going to get changes in it. Okay? So it's still early. Okay? That's why I'm saying be patient and we'll get there. But still at the same time, if you're going to build, don't do residential things, residential homes and things like that, unless you're willing to take some risk and some experimentation and want it, and also to be part of this whole industry movement, because we have to learn from it. So the outbuilding direction that I'm emphasizing here is the way to go in my mind, okay? Because we can see how it will work, how it builds, and we don't have the issues and the zoning. I could go into zoning for hours, okay? Outbuildings, it's very easy to build in cities, towns, and everything else. We had to go through a building department out in Denver. They were so excited let me take that back. When I said it's a HempCrete building, of course, is it pot? No. So education again. But Denver took it as a forward-moving target for sustainable materials, and they were great. But we still had to answer every question on those forms. And as an architect, that's part of my job, is the paperwork and the zoning to make sure it conforms. And right now, with outbuildings, it's an easy lesson for us, for the contractors, and for the zoning and fire inspectors.
Can we get to the question?
Sure.
Do you know what's being added in Europe to add the load-bearing nature?
One of the things that they're looking at is doing Portland cement, just like they do with concrete. That being said, the mechanical information, I've been reading about this for the past few months, which is really fun if you're an actor type of thing. But it's getting better though, for sure. But one of the problems is even with that, it's still the compression strength is just not quite there to compete with other mainstream building materials. One of the reasons that I wanted to leave that open and not give a hard no on that is because there's a lot of possibilities here and a lot of optimization for very, very specific applications so something like that may very well come out in the next few years, but it's very, very hard to forecast that at this point. But I would say, yeah, Portland cement is one option to increase the compression strength, but as it goes forward, then the real testing and whatnot will really start.
There's also basalt, which is I believe that's volcanic ash, that has an interaction with the lime and hemp, as well as the magnesium oxide, also is being experimented with. Okay.
Hey guys, over here.
Where?
So I'm wondering, in an interest to not reinvent the wheel in certifying the material science end of things in this country, how can we draw upon European and Canadian people who have figured this out and have them come here and help us on a logistical, a political level and move it along a little quicker? you know?
It's by building, okay?
Yeah.
And by building small and by learning from it, okay? I would recommend you guys do the classes like we did out with Left Hand Hemp in Colorado. There are guys over in Burlington and Brattleboro that are having classes. And get your hands into it and feel it and do it. But there's also seminars in Europe. Everybody's watching America because we're the biggest importers of hemp in the world because we can't grow it. Once that opens up, we're going to be taken over pretty quickly. But like Big Pharma, like the guy was talking about, Seth, before this, there's a lot of people in the background that are going to jump, the big companies.
But I guess what I'm wondering about mostly is like the fire rating aspects and like the aspects that are going to require, really technical details. Like, why can't we learn from people who are already doing this?
We can learn a lot from it, but the certifications where I need a 1 hour rating, okay? A 1 hour rating means it's slowing the fire down. Okay? And hemp, you've probably seen the videos. Hemp won't burn, okay? It will not burn. But I tried that in Denver because in the zoning there was a line of if you're closer than X amount of feet to your neighbor, it had to be a 1 hour rating. And I said, oh, don't worry about it. It never burned. But I couldn't prove it in American standards. I couldn't say European or Canadian numbers. It has to be ours, and it's being done now, okay? Not by us, but the UL people and the ASTA, it's going that way. Again, 5 years, okay? It's getting there.
Eli, what are we doing time-wise here?
I was going to call last one.
Last question, right here.
So my question actually dovetails on his. So like 5 years ago, I wrote an article about all the different uses of hemp in building, including insulation in the roof and whatnot. And I guess I'm kind of wondering, and I want to get some stuff either from Canada, from Manitoba, or England. And I'm kind of wondering why we're not exploring those other things, like especially like the insulation that you would put in your attic. It's such a light product, so it won't be so horrible to get it from Manitoba, but I'd really rather be getting it from Vermont or New York or Maine, and it's absurd that we can't.
It is, but it's coming. But there are companies already. Sunstrand, for instance, down in Kentucky, you can get insulation from them.
Manitoba's
but it's Kentucky,
close.
okay? And, we had to get our hemp from France. Okay, so the sustainability, went right out the door for that. But again, we couldn't use the hemp from Colorado because Left Hand Hemp was not comfortable at that time with the quality that he could guarantee the mix well. And he knew from France that was good. But that's going to change. It will change. It will change.
In an ideal world, and I know that this really brings some really big implications for the construction industry in general, is that you really do want to grow it locally, and you really do want to, much like concrete, be taking everything, the raw materials from the local market and really, processing, manufacturing, and giving it to local contractors. What many are seeing, especially with this, and this is again like really exciting about this, is that because of the density, the amount of material that is required to do, especially like a housing development or stuff like that, this really may be very much a regional market, which would really instill, like, local communities are going to be added parts of the team, not, just well, we can do it locally, but it's cheaper to just, go to Home Depot and just, do it like we normally do for everything. So, yeah, that is the direction that we're going in, to try to, in an ideal world, again, to just be buying everything from local markets and, manufacturing it and building right on site. This may even, once the market starts to mature and the accounting process starts to see where the really viable parts of the supply chain are, like, that might actually be the best option, from a business perspective and a social and ecological perspective too.
All right, guys, I appreciate. Thank you very much to Bob and Alex. Hemp bringing families together, confirmed. We have got coming up next, we're going to give about 5 minutes so we can change the room over and give you guys a chance to ask Bob and Alex some more questions. I know we have more questions than answers. That's the point of this. And then our next panel presentation, we're going to start, like I said, about 5 minutes or so, testing and processing. What is the difference between hemp and marijuana? Your test results. And a lot of questions about processing. So we are going to start that up in about 5 minutes back here. So good time to go run, get a drink, hit the bathroom, and encourage you to talk to the Eschers. Thank you.